How Did We Get Here? Episode 1. The Man Who Dreamed of a Thinking Machine. It's 1821. The Industrial Revolution is in full swing in Britain. Factories are replacing handwork. Steam engines are replacing horses. Everything is being mechanized. Everything, that is, except math. Math was still done entirely by hand, by people called computers, human computers. Rooms full of clerks doing arithmetic all day, page after page after page. Navigation tables, artillery range charts, insurance calculations, tax records. The entire infrastructure of civilization ran on numbers calculated by hand, copied by hand, and printed by hand, and they were full of errors. Errors that sank ships, errors that cost lives. Everyone knew that the tables could be wrong, but nobody had a solution. But one man had an idea. It wasn't Thomas Edison, it wasn't Nikola Tesla, and it wasn't Alexander Graham Bell. It was a little-known man by the name of Charles Babbage. Babbage was not an easy man to like. He was brilliant, argumentative, obsessive, and had a legendary hatred of street musicians. But his mind worked in a way almost nobody else's did. In 1821, he was checking a set of mathematical tables, and he kept finding mistakes. Babbage slammed his fist on the table and said, "I wish these calculations had been executed by machine." Within a year, he had designed one. He called it the difference engine, a tower of interlocking gears, cogs, and columns designed to calculate mathematical tables automatically and stamp the results directly into a printing plate, cutting out human error entirely. The British government loved the idea. They gave him the equivalent of several $1 million to build it. Babbage threw himself into the project completely. But the precision engineering required to make thousands of gears mesh perfectly together was beyond what 1821 manufacturing could reliably produce. 12 years into the project, the money was hemorrhaging, and even he was beginning to doubt whether it could be done at all. The dream he staked everything on was slipping away. It was precisely at this moment that a 17-year-old girl walked into his workshop and changed everything. Her name was Ada Lovelace. She was the daughter of the famous poet Lord Byron, though she'd never known him. Her mother, terrified that Ada would inherit her father's volatile temperament, kept her away from him entirely and steered her education almost exclusively toward mathematics and logic, the opposite of everything Byron represented. And what her mother couldn't have known was that in doing so, she was accidentally creating the world's first computer programmer. Where Babbage saw a calculating machine, Ada looked at the prototype and saw something else entirely. Over the next 10 years, Ada and Babbage collaborated closely, and in 1843, she did something extraordinary. She wrote what is widely considered the first computer program in history, a set of instructions for the machine to calculate a specific sequence of numbers, step by step, conditional logic, operations that wouldn't be called programming for another 100 years. And she went further. She wrote that a machine like this could go beyond pure numbers, that if you could represent anything, music, language, symbols, as numbers, the machine could manipulate those too. In 1843, she was describing what we now call a general-purpose computer. But the money was gone. After 20 years of cost overruns and missed deadlines, the British government had finally pulled the funding. The difference engine sat half-built in Babbage's workshop. Ada died in 1852. She was 36 years old. Babbage died in 1871. He never finished the machine. He spent his final years bitter, largely ignored, and convinced the world had failed him. Their notes were filed away. Their ideas gathered dust. For the next 70 years, they sat dormant. But in 1991, the Science Museum in London decided to build the difference engine from his original plans and using modern manufacturing techniques. It worked perfectly on the first try. Here's what I want you to understand before we go any further. Everything we're going to cover in this series, transistors, personal computers, the internet, machine learning, all of it follows a single thread that runs directly back to that half-built pile of brass gears, sitting in a London workshop in the 1840s. Those ideas are the foundation of every computer ever built, every smartphone, every AI system, every algorithm deciding what you see on your screen right now. For nearly 3/4 of a century, the concept of a mechanical thinking machine went nowhere, and then the world went to war. Not once, but twice. And the second time, the stakes were so high and the calculations so complex that governments poured unlimited money into solving the exact problem Babbage had identified a century earlier. Subscribe, because the next 100 years of this story are going to move a lot faster than the first 100. That's episode 1. I'll see you in episode 2.